Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Our extraordinary NHS has now succeeded in vaccinating more than 17.7 million people across the UK, and nearly a year after this pandemic began, this unparalleled national effort has decisively shifted the odds in our favour, so that we no longer have to rely simply on lockdowns and restricting our behaviour and putting our lives on hold. But with every day that goes by, this programme of vaccination is creating a shield around the entire population, which means that we're now travelling on a one-way road to freedom, and we can begin safely to restart our lives and do it with confidence. And I want to be frank about exactly what that means and the trade-offs involved. The vaccines reduce the danger of COVID, they save lives, and they keep people out of hospital. But no vaccine against any disease has ever been 100% effective. So whenever we ease the lockdown, whether it's today or in 6 or 9 months, we've got to be realistic and accept that there will be more infections, more hospitalizations, and therefore, sadly, more deaths, just as there are every year with flu. Even if we sustain the lockdown indefinitely, which would itself cost lives and do immeasurable harm to our children, we would not be able to eradicate this disease. And that's why it's right gradually to replace the protection afforded by the lockdown with the protection of the vaccines. And our approach is to move with the utmost care and advancing in 4 steps, each with a minimum of 5 weeks apart, so we can properly judge the impact of each relaxation before we move on. And you can see the details of all of this on gov.uk. And we will be led at every stage by data, not dates, and we will apply 4 tests: the pace of the vaccination programme, the effectiveness of the vaccines, the pressure on the NHS, and the risks of any new variants of COVID. And therefore, as we look at the data today, I can confirm that 2 weeks from today, Monday the 8th of March, we will begin step 1. And schools and colleges across England will reopen and teaching in classrooms can start again. All the evidence shows that schools are safe and the risk posed to children by COVID is vanishingly small. But to offer even greater reassurance, we're introducing twice-weekly testing of secondary school and college pupils and asking them to wear face coverings for the rest of this term. Students on practical courses can return to university, but all others will need to continue learning online and will review the situation before the end of the Easter holidays. We will allow breakfast and after-school clubs to restart, and among other changes, on March the 8th, you'll be able to have a coffee on a bench or a picnic in a park with one person outside your household. And because we know how stressful this time has been and how people yearn to see friends and family, if only fleetingly, we will now go further. And on the 29th of March, you can meet more of your friends and family outside, including in gardens, either as 2 households or subject to the rule of 6. And then we'll go on to step 2, which is no earlier than the 12th of April. And this is a big moment because shops will return and reopen, hairdressers, nail salons will reopen, pubs and restaurants will all be able to serve customers outside, precisely because we know that outside the risk of transmission is lower. And then 5 weeks after that, no earlier than May the 17th, we'll go to step 3 and open all our hospitality sector to service indoors, pubs, bars, restaurants, along with hotels and cinemas. And subject to capacity limits, we will also open sports stadia, concert halls and theatres. And finally, provided we continue to pass the 4 tests, then from the 21st of June, we will go to step 4 and say goodbye to most remaining restrictions, resuming large-scale events like business conferences and football matches, lifting the limits on weddings and reopening nightclubs. All of these steps will apply in England, and the government will continue to do whatever it takes to protect jobs and livelihoods across our whole United Kingdom for the duration of the pandemic. And I know there are some who would like to accelerate the timetable. And I know, of course, there are others who would like to be more cautious and stay in the slow lane. And I understand both points of view, and I sympathise, because levels of infection are still high, and we must strike a very careful balance and always accept that we've got to be humble in the face of nature. But also, we must accept that we cannot persist indefinitely with restrictions that have separated families and loved ones for too long, threatened the livelihoods of millions, kept pupils out of school. It's thanks to the rollout of these vaccinations, many of them pioneered in this country, that the balance of that judgment is now changing in our favour. And thanks to the vaccinations, that there is light ahead, leading us to a spring and a summer which I think will be seasons of hope, looking and feeling incomparably better for us all, and from which we will not go back.